Hello everyone, it's me Lancer737, and today we're going to get into the multiverse of the MLP. We're going to be exploring a specific part of the multiverse where there also is infinite versions of this universe, the Sombraverse. We've already explored aspects of the Luniverse. We could always go back to that at some other time. But we're going to talk about the universe where the main six either didn't exist or they did exist, but they never did what they had done in the primary G4 universe, which was redeem Princess Luna and then stop King Sombra from taking the Crystal Empire. Technically, also her brother and her sister-in-law also contributed to taking it and protecting the Crystal Empire from King Sombra. But, one has to wonder if they even exist in this universe.
The multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little.
First, let's talk about King Sombra himself. There's technically 3 different versions of him. 2, specifically, in the main G4 universe. You might be like, what? There can't be 2. Technically, yes, there can be. There's 2 of them.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them.
And I suspect one came into being when his horn was shattered, when the Crystal Heart was activated, creating 2 different King Sombras. One that was not just dead, but expelled to the Nether Realm. And the other one that solely recreated himself. Yes, I know this is headcanon, but I want the comics to be canon. Some of them are left in a gray area where they can be canon, but they also might not be canon. Well, I just gave you a fix for it because those comics are awesome. I'm not the only one that thinks that. So let's get into their abilities first before we talk about that universe itself. The primary G4 universe, King Sombra, and a good portion of the multiverse of the MLP multiverse with King Sombra has these magical abilities. He has a dark aura and blast, crimson green beams that corrupt whoever they touch, crystal corruption and manipulation, envelops objects and living beings in dark crystals, twisting their nature, mind control and hypnosis, puts citizens or even ponies into a trance, forcing obedience. And I must point out, because I count the crossover as canon, even Autobots and Decepticons were not immune to King Sombra, and I will get into that further. He has incredibly powerful manipulation magics and mind control magics. Illusions and shape-shifting, projects phantom images, like a gigantic dragon, and briefly alters his form. Part of that has to do with him being a shadow pony, which is inherited to them, where they can shape change. I don't know if it's to the same degree as like a changeling or the other changelings. There are other changelings besides hippogriffs, but he definitely can change his appearance. Personally, from what I read in the official art book for MLP G4, from the way it sounds and when you look at the footage of him when Celestia and Luna came to save the Crystal Empire and it was banished by a curse he created, it killed him. There's no 1-2 ways about it. They actually killed him, took away his physical form, and then trapped his soul in ice. That's also going to be an aspect to his shape-shifting ability, since he is a spirit, a very dark spirit. He also has the ability for phasing and teleportations. He can vanish into smoke, reappearing elsewhere or through solid walls. He's also a shadow manipulator. He can make shadow constructs, create spikes, tendrils, or a cage of living shadows. He's a shadowmancer, dark entity, crystalmancer. He has some really dangerous abilities. And when you go further than that, like when you include the other media that I consider canon, well, it doesn't even matter, because in the multiverse, he is going to have a combination of these abilities, or all the above. His crystal shards create dark energy orbs, smoke bombs, temporary wing flight, and crystal golems. Yeah, he can do a lot of crazy things. That should not be a surprise to you that he could do those things, because being a crystalmancer, as powerful as him, you should be able to create crystal golems. And then Return to the Crystal Empire in the comics, he actually made a two-headed Hydra illusion, and it freaked a heck of a lot of people out. And he can, of course, make reinforced crystal constructs that absorb ambient magic. And I'll get further into that later, because I will deep dive into how he does things with his crystal. He also, in the Legends of Magic novels, had an Eternal Night enchantment that allowed him to extend darkness to block solar-based magics, which is not good, especially if you're Celestia, or I'm assuming that would interfere with magic laser beams. It might not with concussion beams, though, but you never know. And he can also drain magical potency over time as a curse. But get this, in the crossover, I bet you didn't know this. King Sombra is a headmaster. You might not be familiar with that term. In Transformers, there is a type of Transformer known as a headmaster, where one Transformer will only turn into the head, and the other Transformer turns into the body of the giant living machine. King Sombra used his magic to possess one of the biggest, most powerful Decepticons, while also controlling Megatron and other powerful Transformers. He also even took over some of the main six, so they didn't have access to the elements of magic, including Twilight herself. When he did this, he merged his horn-driven dark magic with Cybertronian energy circuitry, becoming a sentient machine. When you're looking at this thing, it didn't look too different than the original Sombranok, but we call this Sombranok. It had like dark bellowing clouds coming out of it. But other than that, it didn't look too different. He could create dark energon blasts, hybrid projectiles that combine plasma bolts with corrosive dark energy, able to tear through Autobot armor. And it wasn't just Autobot armor that he could destroy. Apparently, with all these abilities, he became a multiversal threat, something I didn't even know about. Possession augmented combat. While inhabiting the Decepticon, Sombra can override weapon systems, instantly recalibrate missile locks, rail guns, and ion cannons that fire shadow rounds, energon corruption, and fuse the host's fuel lines with dark magic, causing short-circuit chain reactions, blackout storms, spell shield plating, coat the chassis in living shadow matrix that heals damage by absorbing nearby light. And he had a psychic link in techromancy, controls other Decepticons within range through an Imperium network, turning swarms into his personal phalanx. And again, I have to stress, it wasn't just Decepticons. He had control over Autobots and even some of the main six. Last but not least, one of my favorite versions of King Sombra, the Mirror Universe version of King Sombra. He had mirror elemental magic, draws on reflected emotional energy, amplifying both love and despair. Heart bind enchantments, can teeter another pony's emotions to his own will, blending hearts and minds. Illusionary romance, casts glamour spells that make environments mirror Rosalind's court, forcing opponents to relive both joyous and tragic memories. Celestial Echo steals fragments of Princess Celestia's solar magic to fuel his own spells, producing dazzling twilight flame arcs. Dual nature constructs creates crystal sculptures that pulse alternately with dawn's warmth and night's chill, symbolic of his love and corruption. Now, the reason I wanted to bring all these things up, and I don't think I'm going to need to bring up anything from Magic the Gathering or Dungeons and Dragons, because this is all pretty much clear cut. Although, as a bonus, I might bring up some spells from those different universes because they have crossed over. This is what I think has happened. So from what we saw, what happened in his version of the events for when the main six don't exist, and from what it looks like, Princess Luna was never redeemed. Nightmare Moon probably didn't come back, but in some universes she did. But first, let's go with the ones where she didn't at all. Sombra returns in secret, and Celestia, isolated and unprepared, only realizes the threat once entire duchesses have fallen. By the time she rallies Canterlot's forces, crystal corruption has spread to Griffinstone, Yakistan, Maritime Bay. Entire populations, ponies, griffins, yaks, are enslaved or mutated into shadow thralls. The consequences are grave. Equestria exists only as a ring of broken castles around the Crystal Empire's black spires. Neighboring realms, the Dragonlands, Zepburka, Griffinstone, lie in ruins. No united army ever formed to push him back. And to be honest with you, I think there's a lot more kingdoms than what we've seen. It's a personal headcanon. What we get in the Equestria at War, I think that's also just a sliver of all the different kingdoms that could possibly exist. So there would be a lot more than just the Dragonlands and Griffinstone. Multiple different pony kingdoms, whether it be a pure one like nothing but unicorns or mixed or anything. I think Sombra did a heck of a lot of damage, and it looks like a Celestia and the Equestria are the only ones left. Granted, there are also some universes where it's not just Equestria, but in this scenario, let's talk about that. I think she's having a grievous time pushing them back, and she likely didn't even know it happened. Granted, I mean, there is some leeway. She does have farsight dream abilities. But, like, to let it get as bad as it did, from what we saw, I don't think she would have let that happen. And I think she didn't have a dream to warn her about the invasion of King Sombra coming back. And maybe Luna is partially linked to that ability. Maybe Celestia doesn't have the ability to farsight without her sister being, I don't know, aware. Maybe she passively gives some of those abilities to Celestia just by being. You never know. That is a complicated thing. Maybe a video should be made of that itself. But since we are talking about the multiverse, there are some more interesting outcomes than that. What if I told you there is a universe where Luna did come back? And here is one of them. Luna secretly casts the Sombra persona to test Celestia or to prepare a contingency takeover. Yes, you heard me right. In this universe, Sombra didn't exist. He actually didn't come back. Luna is pretending to be King Sombra. And if things go really bad, she'll get away and pretend that King Sombra, using illusions, was destroyed. And either she will sneak attack Celestia then and there, or she'll plot longer for the right time to strike again. I know that might sound crazy, but we're talking about the multiverse. It's very possible. Don't forget all the rumors that we heard. And in the end, in the primary universe, we know it's not true. But don't forget all the rumors. We always would ask, why is Luna gone? Remember during the Canterlot wedding? Luna just shows up at the end. It's like, where were you, Luna? It's like, oh, I was busy. Well, in the primary universe, that is true. In alternate universes, though, she could have been Queen Chrysalis there. Or in this case, she could be King Sombra. And the consequences are Celestia's forces are shattered by their own sister's betrayal. Luna as Sombra declares herself Empress of Equestria, or King of Equestria, if she never has to stop pretending to be him. And in some universes, she might prefer staying that way. And she'll have Celestia trapped within a mere palace. A new civil war breaks out. Free ponies versus the hybrid rule of Luna Sombra. That is also a possible outcome where you have a civil war after that. But to be honest with you, with Celestia gone at that point, and no main six, at least no main six that follows the Canterlot or follows Celestia's rule, it's very doubtful they'll be able to beat Luna. And then you get back to the Lunaverse, because this will suddenly become a Lunaverse video or outcome. But I got an even crazier one for you. What if Luna came back and she was forced to marry King Sombra? You're like, what? There are some spells and some places that require you to be a specific person, a specific bloodline, or be married into a bloodline And what if there's very powerful spells? They don't necessarily have to be dark magic, but some of them could be. Where you have to be married into Celestia's bloodline or family to access those vaults. And so, he has taken Luna, forced her to marry him, and now will have access to those vaults full of really powerful magical information or spells or a combination of both. And one of the few places is in Canterlot, so that's another reason why he's at war with it, because he wants those dark artifacts. And he can't just destroy Luna, because if he does, then that breaks that contingency spell. Because obviously he technically wouldn't be married into that bloodline. There's other spells like it too. We've seen it in other things. A spell that protects, let's say, the Infinity Stone of Time. The only way you can get it from Doctor Strange is if he willingly took it off his own neck. Because even destroying him, it would not allow you to have access to it.
It's a simple spell, but quite unbreakable.
Then I'll take it off your corpse.
You find removing a dead man's spell troublesome.
So it's not above the realm of possibility that this is what happened. And this is why we don't see Luna, if it's a universe where she did come back and was redeemed. How, I don't know. Maybe she felt better after sleeping and the nightmare entity left in that universe. But it's dark, and the consequences are grim. Equestrian nobles congruently bow to Queen Luna, believing her presence checks Sombra's worst impulses. Rebel cells from around Luna's sadness, plotting a true rescue to both free her and delegitimize Sombra's crown by marriage. And that would happen if Celestia completely falls. And there's a chance that he would still have to remain married to Luna. And so that could be really tricky. Because like he could be forced to have to keep Celestia alive, because he's like, you know, Luna's like, I'll allow myself to be destroyed then if you're going to destroy my sister. Or in some cases, maybe Celestia is banished or destroyed, and Luna then does try to have a rebel cell along with herself try to take him out. In some universes, that works. In some universes, Luna does win. In others, not so much. Here's an even crazier one. Luna does marry him. Whether it's because of those special seals where he's forced to be married into her bloodline or not is inconsequential, because in some of these universes, Luna is genuinely in love with King Sombra. And no, I don't ship them, but it's a possibility, because we're talking about the multiverse. There's a universe out there in MLP where King Sombra defeats everyone with a magic egg. And I know you're like, why the magic egg? Well, it's the multiverse. All things are possible, I hate to say. Luna's fully redeemed, falls genuinely in love with Sombra. Celestia and allied kingdoms unite to oppose them. And this can be really bad. It could be worse, but it'll still be really bad, because then she would actually be helping Sombra in his campaign against all the other forces. And in this case, you might not be seeing her because she's either the night shift in the conflict, or she's a defensive force that makes sure no one ever takes back ground in areas that King Sombra has conquered. Their love blinds light and shadow, binds it into an unstoppable twilight fusion, creating a new twilight crystal that channels both solar and lunar power beyond any single element. Celestia coordinates a grand coalition, all the different races and all the different kingdoms associated with them, to break the twilight bond. Battle rages over enchanted fields of black and silver crystals, every spell cast further strengthening their power, this power couple. And the consequences, Equestria fractures into pro-Luna, pro-Celestia territories. Ponies fight ponies, even as the twilight crystals keep growing, threatening to warp the very fabric of reality. Only a desperate gamble, perhaps a union of free crystal hearts, can hope sever their bond. And it gets worse. What if it's not Princess Luna that comes back? What if it is Nightmare Moon? And it could be one of the combinations of those two. And so she's full-blown using her nightmare magics to fight alongside King Sombra, whether it's because she's genuinely in love with him or she's there for convenience. Sure, she was threatened by King Sombra, but she sees how effective this unionship is against her evil sister Celesta. And you're like, what? Evil? Well, I mean, to Nightmare Moon, she's evil, you know. And so at the last moment, she'll either try to destroy King Sombra too, or maybe he's prepared for her and he'll get her. Or maybe they'll destroy each other and the Earth. Or maybe aliens save us. It's very doubtful. But this is why I love the multiverse. Just imagine if you all picked through one of these favorite scenarios and you told me to craft a story around it. It'd be fun. It would be awesome. I would love it. Daylights never return. Skies drip with emerald dusk as living nightmares ecosystems sprout black crystal trees and shadow moss. Cities become dream shards. Reality itself pulses with fear. The very sun dims under his spell and hers. Sombra uses these nightmare crystals to reshape continents into colossal pedestals for his dark throne, then extends that corruption into space, pulling the moon and sun into his crystalline network. The consequences are even more grim than the others. Equestria becomes an eternal dreamscape prison. Celestia is trapped in a personalized nightmare loop, while Sombra's hollow giants patrol the skies, ready to invade neighboring star systems. And it gets more extreme. I wouldn't have brought this up if not for the fact that I saw the Transformers My Little Pony Part 2 crossover. Pony of Shadows is no longer the only multiversal threat, a serious one, to exist not just within MLP, but Hasbro and other franchises as well. King Sombra is now a multiversal threat. Here's the setup. Infinity of Sombraverse. Some release shadow ponies to wipe out their worlds. Others lose to local heroes. All fuel the rising power of the Pony of Shadows. You may notice this too. In the Sombraverse, he didn't actually release the shadow ponies. The only one to ever do that would be the Sombra from the primary universe that came from the shattered unicorn horn when Cadence and Shining Armor defeated him and reactivated the Crystal Heart. The one that was brought back from the Netherrealm, which would have been most of him that was disintegrated by the Crystal Heart, that one did not care to bring back the Shadow Ponies. Could you imagine a Sombreverse where he did bring back the Shadow Ponies, whether he's married to Luna or Nightmare Moon or not? Imagine Nightmares and Shadow Ponies teamed up. What happens? I mean, what is going to happen other than absolute destruction? We saw it in the assault with the Sombra from the primary universe, and this applies to multiple alternate universes, where King Sombra had a different army of villains teamed up with him to take on the Crystal Empire. Queen Chrysalis realized what he was going to do, releasing the Umbrum, aka Shadow Ponies, and they were going to absolutely destroy everything. And I think that's exactly what would happen on the planet in the multiverse if he got out, and he can do that. Again, whether Luna is part of his team or not, that would cause massive destruction. Sombra variants who unleash the Shadow Pony swarms create crystal rifts between universes, allowing darkness to flood across the dimensions. The rifts attract the attention of the Pony of Shadows, a being whose very existence is to collapse reality into primordial void. Sorry about that. In some universes, Sombra allies with that entity, trading entire world souls for multiversal domination. I had to bring up the Pony of Shadows, because any version of King Sombra that's doing this would probably attract them. The Pony of Shadows, the mirror version. Well, we're talking about the multiverse. There is infinite versions of the Pony of Shadows, but the one that we know that looks really cool with the green flames, the one that conquered an army of heiresses, princess heiresses. He loves collapsing worlds, probably galaxies and universes, considering what it is he takes on and takes over. He loves corrupting the most powerful heroes of that world, that galaxy, dimension, universe, and having them do the destruction for him. while he sits back and enjoys it. With King Sombra doing this, it's not that he'd need to corrupt them, but he'd gain a lot from this. He would gain from the destruction. Consequences: a galactic war spills into Questria's universes. Starborn armies of shadow march through crystalline wormholes. The last hope lies in a coalition of redeemed Sombras, Luna's versions, radiant hopes, and a few surviving pony of light variants, united against the ultimate corruption of existence. And you're like, holy crap, it's like, yeah, that should be a story. If you want me to make a story based off of that, I would love to do it. And it could easily be the Sombranok 2 version. That one is absurdly powerful because it's a massive blend of technological devastation and dark magics. And if it has shadow ponies too, game over for a lot of different universes. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Everything that could have possibly happened. Now let's get into some other things. We didn't see this really in the show, in the Sombraverse, but there are universes, and it's possible even in that one, he was building crystal magic reservoirs for powering himself, or even more. He was going to take the Earth and use it as a vessel to travel the universe and multiverse and collect all the energies he could through his crystals and use it to power himself up further. I was looking into crystal magics and MLP and the occult, including, involving crystals, which I, as a Catholic, I do not recommend. There's a lot of things that I've seen, both spiritually and also politically, why you should not get into crystals as an actual religious thing. But I found some interesting things out. Crystals are actually used for containment usually. And then actually, the only crystals I could find between, stuff in real life and MLP that are evil actually tend to be just in MLP. Crystals have various different properties. Their colors can mean absolutely many different things. And believe it or not, the black one is the one that would be used to contain evil things or dark things. And what I'm thinking is, when he thought he was a pony, a unicorn, I think because he couldn't get full access to dark magics, he found a cheat, a way to be able to manipulate dark magics. He used crystalmancy to contain dark magics, but he would overfill them. So he'd have a concentration of all those dark magics. He'd concentrate it and then manipulate it that way. With what little knowledge he had, until he gained further knowledge, he still was dangerous with all the dark magics that he can manipulate that way, using something that was normally meant to contain dark or any energy really, but usually dark energy. And some of the colors actually line up between real life and MLP. What's different is, like black crystals, and I think like dark purple crystals, they generally are depicted being evil. I tried looking it up. There is nothing on silver crystals. So silver and gold crystals, we have no idea what they could do. Silver crystals could be those Luna crystals that I came up with this. But as far as I know, just about every single color has a meaning. And I would take it whenever you see the MLP version, the dark or the blackness within the crystals, that's like the opposite. When it's infused with whatever the color is meant to represent, it is now the corrupted version of that, and it's concentrated, becoming incredibly dangerous. It just, all the crazy stuff I found out about Sombra and crystal magic is just, it's incredible. I just never really realized how dangerous he was until I looked into all of this. Unlike Luna, who in most of the instances we talked about would need to find dark ways or unique ways to keep the planet alive despite it being in constant night, You know, excluding some of the universes where she didn't care, where everything was undead or just an illusion, a nightmare magic. There's some universes where King Sombra could care less if anything survived on the planet. So concentrating all the magic from everything on the planet, every kind of power source you can imagine, even the destruction of other characters and their people, he could contain it and build it up into his crystals, engorging himself in magical energy. Also in spiritual energy, but at this point he probably wouldn't care because he is really evil. So at this point, if you thought all that was crazy, it's about to get crazier, because like I've said before, MLP is owned by the same people own D&D and Magic the Gathering, and we're going to go over the spells he could be using from those universes. And I have an extra special gift just for you. Luna and a few other characters have officially been made and used in Magic the Gathering. I just made my own homebrew versions of King Sombra, Mirror Universe King Sombra, Sombranok, Shadow Ponies, and Radiant Heart, and another variation of her. I'm going to put it on the screen, and you can screen capture it and use it yourself. Just let the other opponent know that you're using homebrews. So, here's a list of magics. Crystal Magics, Dungeons and Dragons, Order of the Crystal Shard. Wizards conjure crystalline motes and stores and release spells like Chromatic Orb, Fireballs, Shattered, Crystal Fire spells, Tasha's Evocations. They launch razor-sharp glass flames, dreamlight crystals, ever in Critical Role, focus items for illusions, and dream walking. Though I don't think King Sombra has dream walking, I think he has a lot of psionic abilities, which in D&E, characters like dragons, a lot of the crystalline dragons are very powerful psionics. And rule of thumb, no matter what level you are when you're psionic, you're going to destroy everyone. Even if you're level 1 psionic versus a level 50 psionic, it just comes down to whoever draws first. So, and then we have some crystal psionic abilities from D&D. Psi Crystals, Psionic Handbook, Gemstones, Focal that channel telepathy, telekinesis, or astral projection, Mind Shards Array, Linked Crystals that amplify range, clarity of telepathic networks. And a lot of this stuff I think does apply with what we've seen King Sombra do. But being a Crystalmancer kind of automatically gives them the abilities to use these things. So how would King Sombra weaponize these? Corrupt crystals, motes into obsidian shards that unleash shadow flame blasts. Twist dreamlight crystals into nightmare seeds, infecting dreams with crippling fear. Implant black psi crystals in enemy minds to sow paranoia and confusion. And we've also kind of seen something similar to this, not quite, where he was fighting King Shining Armor. I know you're like, King Shining Armor? Well, that's what I call him. Get over it. Anyway, and King Shining Armor was pretty brave to take him on one-on-one. Well, he corrupted his horn with dark magic crystals that would cause him pain if he tried to use any magic spells. So I think that's crazy. That's kind of, it's on the same family of spells right there. And now we got Magic the Gathering, Prism Array, Commander Legends. That's going to be a different one that's very OP. Legendary enchantment that converts spells into prismatic crystals of all colors. Sternite, Domeria, a 10 mana artifact crystal storing massive bursts of colorless mana. Crystalline Crawler, artifacts that grows as you cast non-create spells. Again, that aligns with him very well. Then you have psionic crystal abilities from Magic the Gathering. Psionic resonators, devices that siphon opponents' thoughts. Memory crystals, trap opponents, and looping visions. Again, this is turning out very exactly like what I was saying. Him being a Crystalmancer, a very powerful one. A lot of these abilities already align with what we've seen him do in MLP. So putting a name to it from a different universe kind of helps. and infuses Cernite reservoirs with pure shadow mana to fire onyx eruptions that obliterate wards, corrupt prism array so that every crystal cast drains life and loyalty from foes, animate crystalline crawlers into swarms of razor-edged shadow constructs. I think this all fits very well. Instead of just saying he's just using crystalmancy, using the names of these spells and psionic abilities from either Magic the Gathering or Dungeons and Dragons, it makes it more accurate what you're trying to talk about and what kind of spells he's using. But then again, maybe you do want it simple and you'll just say crystalmancer, because that also does work pretty well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It took a little bit longer than I would have liked. I had a lot of mishaps along the way. I had a lot of fun doing research, and let me know down below what alternate universe you thought was the most interesting, what you thought I missed, and what you'd like to see next. Peace be with you all, and may the magic of friendship be with you.